Hello and welcome to the Jake Mix Marketing Podcast. I am your host, and today we are at Kiln in Salt Lake City, Utah, in this fancy podcast room. And I have a very, very special guest with me. Her name is Edee Burton, and she is the CEO and founder of Engaged Media. Engaged Media has been around for about a year and a half, and she and her team specifically focuses on social media, digital marketing, all different areas to really grow your brand. So Edee, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started here because I want to ask you a lot. I'm super excited to talk to you because you have a lot of experience with social media. You have a lot of experience growing brands and helping that area of the business. And so let's just get started. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background, the place you are in today. You know, let's talk about your education, your past experience, kind of what has led you and inspired you to start this agency that you are now in.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from here, Salt Lake City, Utah, born and raised, and I always knew that I wanted to go away for college. So I moved to DC and studied at American University. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to work with a ton of really, really awesome people and awesome brands. And, I kind of went into it not exactly knowing that, marketing was what I wanted to do, but I worked with a lot of nonprofits and really cool companies. And then at some point, something just kind of clicked, and I thought, there's all these people who have really, really cool stories and no one knows about them. Specifically, I think my senior year in college, I worked with two female entrepreneurs and just, essentially got to really test out all these different marketing strategies with them. And they were, super inspiring to me as female entrepreneurs. They were amazing. And then B, I learned a lot just working with them. And C, I just remember always thinking, oh my gosh, these people are so cool. And they have this amazing story or this amazing product. And it's just not out there. No one knows about it. And so I think, after that, I really got passionate about being able to take something that people love and are really good at and push it out to the world.
Now, what areas do you focus on in your business? Because I know social media is a big one, but are there other aspects of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say social media and then marketing strategy as a whole. I think social media is kind of a catch-all 22. People talk about it, very differently. But, when I say social media, it's not just Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest content. It's really the strategy behind it and then the overall branding strategy, I think. A big thing that we do is sit down with brands and talk to them about who they really are and what they really want to show their target audience. And then we are able to take that and push it out on all platforms, on all social media, and then also kind of shape the way that they talk about their brand, whether that's through their website or, kind of talking about the language that they use when they're talking about their brand. Those are the things.
Okay, so you're taking a brand and you're using many different approaches, maybe not just it. Now I've learned, obviously there's many different types of social media. There's ways to grow a brand, especially with an online presence.
Yeah.
And so, there's paid advertising, there's content marketing, there's really a lot of it.
Yeah.
So do you focus on one channel more specifically than the others, or?
I find that all of them go really well together. So ideally, we're working on paid ads and social, and then that brand also has a website to go back to that really shows who they are as a brand. And the tough part is I think a lot of people think, we can just have a super, super awesome social media presence. But ideally, all of it would work well together. So we really, we do all of it for our clients, everything from Facebook ads to creating different Pinterest covers and maximizing their blog posts so they have great SEO when you look them up. I mean, really all of it works super, super well together. It's not just, Instagram.
Wow. Okay, cool. So it's definitely a collective effort from all different channels.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's something that people kind of forget when they talk about social media.
Sure.
I hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, my daughter's on Instagram all the time. She could definitely do that. And, maybe your daughter could do that. But
sure.
But there's certainly a lot more to it. And a lot of what I think we do that's really different is there's a whole lot of strategy behind it. So we're always, always, always testing all the content that we put out there and really looking at, okay, how did the audience react to this? Are we getting to the right audience? What is that audience saying? And how can we reshape this to make sure that we're getting this we're getting engagement from this brand's target audience. So I think, that's really our biggest focus when we do social media for a brand.
Is the strategy behind it.
Okay. Absolutely.
For sure. Well, and I've seen that a lot in a lot of different companies. They either hire their nephew or their niece to run their social media.
Yeah.
And what they find is it doesn't work. And then they think collectively that just social media doesn't work, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, social media, it's definitely not an easy thing to handle, right? It takes a lot of brain power, it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of hard work, especially to get it right.
Absolutely.
And so I'd love to talk a little bit about your process specifically, both things that you've learned in your journey, but then also things that your team has done. So why don't you just give me an idea of some of the things that you do from day to day to really help your clients grow their brand?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to point out that you said it. We have so many clients that come to us and say, well, social media doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. And I think it's so important to remember that it's not necessarily just putting content out there to put it out there. It's really the strategy behind it. And, where we really start is sitting down with the client. And I really like to have myself and the content creators in there and on this meeting so we can all not only get, what their brand goals are and their social media goals, but kind of get a sense of the essence of the person, especially if they're the person that started the company. We work with a lot of small businesses, which are always the businesses that have the coolest stories and the most to tell. And so we really start by just getting a feel for the person, the vibe of the company, how they work, what they want to push out there. And then once we have that, we kind of all get together and have just a strategy meeting just with our content creators and really put out all different kinds of ideas and, kind of think, okay, what do we want this brand to look like? What is this brand to us? What is this person to us? And then we really start to funnel that into a specific strategy that ideally will bring back, sales and communicate with their customers.
Interesting. Now, do your clients already have a social media following when you bring them on, or what does your typical client look like?
Typically, no. We have worked with clients before that have a social media following, but they're not engaged. And that's the biggest thing, if they have, it doesn't matter how many followers you have if they're not seeing and interacting with the content you're putting out there, because you're not making an impression on them.
Sure.
But really, we've worked with clients anywhere and everywhere that come and have absolutely no social media profiles whatsoever, and we start right from the drawing board, or people that have tens of thousands of followers and are looking to just engage their audience further and really start converting sales. I think a lot of people think, well, if you have 10,000 followers on Instagram, then all of those followers are customers, and that's not necessarily true. So it's really important that the content that they're putting out there is actually engaging to those followers.
Very cool. Are you taking a different approach with a person who's just starting in social media versus a company that is really like high end? They maybe have 10,000 followers. Is the approach super different, or are there like fundamental concepts that are the same?
In terms of the fundamental strategy behind it, we'd be doing a lot of analytics for both of them and really changing up our strategy to make sure that the content is reaching their audience. But starting out, a brand that doesn't have any social media is typically a brand that doesn't really know who they are either. So that's something that we'd really be working on. A lot of that is just figuring out, what does your voice look like? What type of brand are you? What do you look like to your target audience? What are your color schemes? Even that. So we're really, really doing a lot of quote unquote branding when we start out with someone who doesn't have any sort of presence on social media.
Sure.
And I think that's something also that people don't really think about when they think of social media. We have a lot of brands that come to us and don't necessarily have anything other than a logo. And, they don't have like a whole kit that talks about what your brand is and who it's for. And so we spend a lot of time in the beginning really building out who that brand is before we then start promoting it. And whereas a brand who had, 10,000 followers, they likely are already in a place where they've been doing social media for a long time. They likely know who they are as a brand and who their audience is and what their voice is and what they look like, but they're not necessarily strategizing. They don't have the right marketing strategy for their Instagram. And so that's kind of where we'd come at it and look at, what they're doing that's not working and what they're doing that is, and then kind of create a plan that works. And a lot of that just has to do with their analytics, which a lot of people ignore.
Interesting. So is this a long process before you can actually create some consistent growth? or does it happen pretty quick when you get these things aligned?
I always am careful with giving a specific timeline because it's different with every single brand. But I've seen we work with a treadmill company that I've seen literally go from 0 to, I think they're almost 8,000 at this point in the process of 6 months.
Wow.
But that's certainly not something that, I would say is plausible for a smaller business that we're going through that kind of branding and voice exercise with. So I think it really depends on where your company is in the branding process. And if you know who you are and who your audience is, then we can pretty quickly start getting that built up and really understand what would be the best way to optimize your social media. But if you're still in that process where you don't exactly know who you are as a brand, then it certainly takes some time.
Interesting. So like for example, with that treadmill company, now is that happening with pure organic content marketing, or is there some paid advertising with that? Some money being pushed behind it?
We've done one paid ad for them in like the 6 months that we've been with them, and that ad did really, really well. But I mean, other than that, all of it's really been organic social and a lot of just focusing on analytics and making sure that what we're putting out there, people are responding to. And they have a fantastic engaged community that seriously is reposting and talking to them on a daily basis, which we love to see. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. When we talk to that client, we're not necessarily saying, oh my gosh, another 1,000 followers. What we're really focusing on is another 1,000 engaged followers, because those are people that ultimately are converting to customers or are kind of, a lot of times they're like, okay, this is the brand that I'm going to think of when I go to buy a treadmill. I know exactly who I'm buying from. I already follow them on Instagram. I see them talk about, how I see their fans talk about how great they are all the time. That's who I'm going with. And so I think that's really been the biggest win with them.
Jeez, yeah, and that's such a great concept. The 1,000 more engaged followers, right? You're looking for that, because I know a lot of brands will also just buy their Instagram followers, right?
Exactly.
And then they have 20,000 followers and they have 300, 200 likes maybe.
Oh.
And it's just that's awesome that you're kind of focusing on that engagement and trying to drive their brand forward.
Oh yeah, always. We're always saying to clients, you're not here to be an influencer. You're here to promote your company. And I think that's the big difference that they don't always understand. I think they, kind of conflate followers and sales.
Sure.
And that's not necessarily, the case. It's engaged followers and sales. And certainly you can make that connection, but just plain followers, no.
So Edee, I would love to talk a little bit more. There was a certain page on your website. It was the client success page. And I loved it because you gave some really, really interesting statistics and analytics. And so if you're okay with it, I'd love to dive a little bit more into those.
Yeah.
So you said that on Instagram, you've claimed that you received a 323% increase of followers in 30 days to your clients. So my question, is this like an overall, or is this with one client? And how have you managed to do this?
Yeah, so that was a specific client that we really worked with in terms of strategy, and we really, really worked on analytics. So what we do is we start at the beginning of the month and really kind of put out all the ideas out there, again, kind of do that branding exercise of who is this brand and how are we going to convey that to their audience with each post. And really, the biggest thing was making sure that each post has a purpose, so we're not just putting out a pretty photo or introducing someone from the team, which, those posts certainly have their place, but they're ultimately not going to connect with your audience. And so we really would put down just a list of goals for the next 30 days. What are we trying to do every single day? And, ultimately it would be, on Monday, we're going to try to explain why this particular brand is different than another. Tuesday, we're going to talk about, why you need this product more than another one. And so I think that was really huge in engaging an audience and getting more followers. And then again, just being able to communicate back and forth with the brand. And they really were great in working with us. And we did, photo shoots with them and video shoots. And then we were able to use that content. And it really works well to grow on Instagram if any of the business owners are willing to talk about their own business, because people want to see who's behind the camera, right? They want to know who built this business and why. And that's, how you ultimately make a human connection. And so that was one of our brands that was actually willing to do that. And that makes a huge difference.
Interesting. Now, can you just explain a little bit about the client? Was it a product? Was it e-commerce? What was kind of the nature of the brand?
Yeah, this was an e-commerce client. So
Very
e-commerce lends itself really, really well to Instagram as a whole. And seriously, it was like there was a community waiting for them to come on. Like they were like, oh my gosh, yes, I have this. I want to talk about it. So, but yeah, that was really exciting. And I think that does happen a lot with e-commerce, which is great. But it's almost more exciting for us sometimes when we get to work with clients who aren't necessarily e-commerce, or clients that don't necessarily think they're going to do really well on social media. It's kind of my favorite thing to have an intro call and have a client say, social media doesn't work for me. And then 30 days later say, I had 3 people, come in the last 2 weeks and they said they found me on Instagram. How did that happen? And I was it works. What we do works. So that's really fun for me, with those smaller businesses. And sometimes growth is a little bit slower if they're not necessarily, in e-commerce or a fitness brand or a particular niche that is super popular on Instagram. But, that's where their conversions really come through, because they might be the only dentist on Instagram in, 30 miles. And so when people are looking and they see them, that's exactly who they're going to go to.
Very cool. Well, and you talk a lot about like connecting with that audience and how it's so critically important that you build this community. How do you do that? Like, what are some specific approaches that you take with that to build a community, to identify with the people that will most likely buy their product and most likely engage with them?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it's really important, again, to understand who your target audience is.
Sure.
And, who it is you want to connect with. Sometimes people say, well, my target audience is everyone. Well, that's not going to work. If your target audience is everyone, then, you're competing with everyone too. But I think really just focusing on what makes your business different and really taking the time to do that branding exercise and, think about what makes you different as a person, because those things are also the same things that make your business different from your competitors. And once you start talking about that and really showing your customers the behind the scenes and telling them why your particular product is important to you and how your particular product will change their lives, that is what makes the difference. And, even just getting on and communicating with your followers is a great way to start building that genuine connection online.
Awesome. Well, wow, that's super cool. And awesome that you can have such success when you just do those simple things, when you put in the work beforehand to actually get the results. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one more, Pinterest. Yeah,
Yes.
And on that, you said your clients average 100,000 monthly viewers.
Yeah.
So how have you and your team managed this process?
So Pinterest is a whole different thing. And it's, it actually works like a search engine.
Okay.
So it's a fantastic way for clients to, without spending any money on ads, to boost their SEO. So I love when clients want to invest in Pinterest, because it's a really, really great way to just get their name out there. So a lot of what we do with Pinterest is really, again, just looking at those analytics and looking at every single pin that we put out. We put out a very high frequency of pins, averaging from 3 to 10 a day for clients. Yes. So, and that really just gets them out there. And then it also kind of starts to create that brand awareness. So people are not only seeing that brand once, twice, they're seeing it 3 times in the same day. And then those end up converting to clicks and sales.
My gosh. Okay. That's amazing. So really with that, it's like frequency is one of the most important thing, where you're frequently posting, you're frequently pinning. I don't know a ton about Pinterest, but it seems like frequency is the key for that platform.
Certainly frequency and again, the quality of the content, right?
That's important too.
And I think another thing, a lot of people think that all social media content is the same. Each platform is completely different. People go to each platform for completely different reasons. So, something that does really well on Pinterest is articles. If you have any sort of blog, it's a great idea to put text on your actual pins and promote those blog posts, because, that's where people are looking for that. People are less likely to look for a blog post on Instagram, again, because you can't even, hyperlink. So I think the difference in understanding what people are going to Pinterest for really helps, and then using that in your strategy.
Very cool. Now, what other trends are you seeing that would be really valuable either to someone who's looking to potentially hire an agency like you, right? Or potentially just a one-man team, maybe doing it themselves? What are some other trends that you've seen in social media across the board that are really fundamental to success, but then also fundamental to brand growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say Instagram stories and reels. Those are
Really?
Oh my gosh, yes. Those are the best way to get views organically right now. And it's, video, talking about your brand, going behind the scenes, really giving people that human touch with your content is awesome. I seriously, if a brand was trying to grow from 0 to 100 in a couple months, I would say start with going behind the scenes and talking, get on camera. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get on there and put stuff out there. And that's the best way right now.
Now, when you say it doesn't have to be perfect, does this mean right in front of a camera, like you just with your phone, just really organic?
Totally. Yeah. And I find, that's something that always intimidates my clients a lot of the time. We do, we kind of handhold them on doing Instagram stories, and we'll kind of talk them through what they should be talking about and how this works and what will reach their brand. But they're always a little bit intimidated, and they say, well, don't I need some high, quality video to put out there? And that's not always the case. You can really, just for Instagram stories, you can get on there and just talk on your phone and take people behind the scenes of your store, and that really makes a difference. Interesting.
Now, are you involving like hashtags with these stories, with these reels? Is that an important process as well?
Certainly, yes.
Okay.
One thing that is kind of fun is you can actually hide your hashtags on Instagram stories by just sizing them smaller.
Small.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great thing to do, because then it doesn't look, it doesn't overwhelm your actual Instagram slides, but it does do the work to get your name out there.
Okay, very cool. And then with IG Reels, are you posting, would you say one a day? What's the frequency needed to grow your brand with that?
I would say a couple a week, and you would want them to be, ideally you'd be posting all the time every day, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, a few a week, and you want it to be quality content. If you're just putting content out there to put it out there, again, that's not going to do anything. But you really want it to be strategic and quality content that is speaking to your followers and your brand itself and your customers. But yeah, I would say a couple times a week, coupled with other just basic social media content, and that would really make a difference.
Very cool. So with this, obviously someone could do this themselves, but the power of your brand and your agency is you're really giving them the ideas, you're fueling the creativity that goes into it. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think the biggest difference really is strategy. That
Sure.
all of our clients at some point have come to us and said, well, I tried, but it doesn't work.
Yep.
And the reality is it doesn't work because they're not being strategic about it. And, what our team does is we really take the time and we have the expertise to sit down and look at these analytics and look at the posts and see what's working and what isn't, and then create a strategy around that. And then again, that branding exercise, just really making sure that we're getting the essence of this company and pushing it out, and not just putting out content to put it out there. I think that's really the big difference. And that's what ultimately makes social media valuable. If you're just posting to post, then it's not going to do anything for your brand.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned analytics. What are some key performance indicators, some KPIs that you're really looking for on social media? When you're looking into the analytics, what's working, what's not?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is engagement, hence engaged media,
Yep.
right? That's something, engagement and then reach, really looking to see when your followers are online, and then paying attention to when you want to put out your posts. And then engagement, again, is just huge. Even if you don't have as big of a reach on a post, you want to make sure that the people that are seeing it are engaged. So if you go back and look at all your posts and see which ones have really high engagement rates, then okay, these are the ones that are actually connecting with my audience. This is how I want to kind of start to move. This is the direction I want to move in.
Very cool. Well, that's extremely helpful for anyone who, again, might be looking to leverage their social media or look for an agency, someone to do the work for them. It takes a lot of work, it sounds like.
It's a full-time job, I would say.
Well, and you were just telling me before this that you are just cranking, right? You have so much work to do.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's so busy.
Yeah, it's so busy. There's a ton of people online right now, which is great for some businesses, not so great for the world as a whole. But there's a ton of people online right now. So yeah, we're really working.
Yeah, doing the best you can. That's awesome. Well, let's go just a couple more questions here, but I want to transition a little bit into your journey to success and just what you've learned. And so you've been in this agency for about 2 years. You've told us a little bit about your experience, really helping brands grow. And so what are some real fundamentals to your success, and any advice for anyone potentially in the marketing space or just a business owner? What fundamentals do you have that you've learned that could really be able to help them?
I think first and foremost, and this is something that a family friend actually told me, and it's one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten, and that is make sure that you have a mission statement and you stay true to it. So when you're feeling really lost and really overwhelmed, you can go back to that and say, okay, am I doing what I'm here for? Am I still building what I want to? And that really has been super helpful for me and, the company as a whole when we're talking to clients and, thinking, okay, are we actually a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for us? And really coming back to what we're all about, which at the end of the day is storytelling. Do these people, are they passionate about their own brand? Because if not, how are we going to, be passionate about it? So
Sure.
That's really a big thing. And then having just some people on hand that that you can call for advice. That's a big thing, because there's going to be ups and downs. Starting a business is never easy. And, just having people that are able to tell you that it's okay and, it's okay to try and fail and try again. That's been super, super helpful to me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your future with this brand. What do you see going forward with your clients, with Engaged Media? What's your plans going forward?
Right now, we're really trying to reach out to a lot of the small businesses that have been hit hard by COVID. I think, that's the biggest thing. A lot of them have the opportunity to tell their story and promote their brand on social media and kind of come back. I've engaged with a couple nearby companies, and it's been really, really sad for me to hear that they've been hit so hard by COVID. So right now we're trying really, really hard to, we're discounting some prices for small businesses so that we really can help them start to build their business back up again. Because, again, that's why we started this. I'm really passionate about people that are passionate about what they're doing.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Well, I love that. Well, I can sense your passion here. You seem super excited and engaged, right, with your brand and what you're doing. So where can people find you, and where can they find more about Engaged Media?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, on our website, engagedmedia.co, not com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also on our Instagram, again, engagedmedia.co. That's a great way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, awesome. And if someone wants to learn a little bit more about you and your journey, where they go on LinkedIn, where's somewhere they could go?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
LinkedIn would be a great place.
Sure.
Just Edee Burton on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. You have been awesome. You've given us some great advice, and I really appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast or watch it if you're watching on YouTube or whatever this is going to be on. But we really appreciate it. Make sure to follow the podcast. And again, if you are interested in getting your brand out there and really leveraging your social media channels, Edee and her brand is a great way to get started. Engagedmedia.co. We'll put it in the link and make sure to check it out. Thanks for watching.